Have you ever wondered if one person could accidentally change the world for the worse? What if an invention made to help millions of people ended up harming millions instead? And what if the same person did it not once, but twice? Today, on the Marrow of Time, we are exploring the unbelievable true story of Thomas Midgley Jr., a brilliant American engineer who created products that were once celebrated as amazing inventions. At the time, people believed they were making life easier and safer. But years later, scientists discovered that these inventions had serious effects on human health and the environment. The shocking part is that Midgley was not trying to hurt anyone he believed he was solving important problems. So how did one engineer become connected to two of history's biggest environmental mistakes? Stay with us to uncover this incredible story. And if you enjoy fascinating true stories from history, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the Marrow of Time, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our next journey into the past. A brilliant young engineer, Thomas Midgley Jr., was born in 1889 in the United States and grew up with a curious mind. From an early age, he enjoyed solving problems and finding new ways to make things work better. Because of his interest in science and machines, he studied engineering and soon became known as a smart and creative thinker. During the early 1900s, the automobile industry was expanding quickly, and more people were buying cars every year. However, car engines had a major problem called engine knock, a knocking or pinging sound caused by improper fuel combustion that reduced performance and could damage the engine over time. Car manufacturers were eager to find a reliable solution because it affected the quality of their vehicles. Midgley believed he could solve this challenge, and after years of research, he found an answer that seemed like a breakthrough. At the time, it looked like a great success, but its long-term effects would eventually impact people and the environment around the world. The discovery that changed everything, Thomas Midgley Jr. and his team spent years testing many different chemicals to solve the problem of engine knock. After trying hundreds of options, they discovered that adding a very small amount of tetraethyl lead to gasoline greatly reduced knocking and allowed engines to run more smoothly. At the time, this seemed like an amazing breakthrough. Cars performed better, engines became more efficient, and automobile companies were excited by the results. The new fuel, later called leaded gasoline, was quickly accepted and soon spread across the United States and many other countries. Before long, millions of cars were running on gasoline that contained lead. For the companies producing and selling it, the invention brought huge profits. To many people, it looked like a symbol of modern progress and scientific success. However, there was a serious problem that was not fully addressed. Lead is a highly toxic metal, and releasing it into the environment through gasoline would later create major public health and environmental concerns. A toxic breakthrough even in the 1920s, scientists already understood that lead was dangerous. High exposure could cause serious health problems like confusion, nerve damage, and even death. Soon, warning signs began to appear in the factories making tetraethyl lead. Workers started getting sick. Some suffered hallucinations, while others became very ill or acted strangely. Several workers even died. One factory became so alarming that newspapers reported shocking stories about employees losing control before their deaths. These incidents raised a serious question. Was this new fuel really safe? A dangerous bet, Thomas Midgley believed the chemical was safe if it was handled carefully. To prove his point, he once performed a public demonstration where he poured tetraethyl lead on his hands and briefly inhaled its fumes in front of reporters. He wanted to show that it was not dangerous in normal use. However, this did not prove that long-term exposure was safe. Soon after, Midgley himself had to take time off work because of lead poisoning linked to his research. Even with these concerns, many companies said the benefits were greater than the risks, so leaded gasoline stayed in use and spread around the world. Invisible poison in the air, every time a car burned leaded gasoline, tiny lead particles went into the air. People unknowingly breathed them in, and the particles also settled into soil, roads, and even inside homes. Over time, scientists found that children were especially at risk because lead can affect brain development. Long-term studies linked lead exposure to learning problems, lower cognitive ability, behaviour changes, and serious health issues in both children and adults. Over many decades, research showed how widespread the damage had become. This led countries to slowly remove lead from gasoline, a process that took many years and was only completed in many places recently. The key lesson is simple. What once looked like a major invention turned into one of the most serious public health problems in modern history. Another problem to solve: most people would expect Midgley to stop working on risky chemicals after the leaded gasoline issue. But instead, another problem came up. Early refrigerators used gases like ammonia and sulfur dioxide, which could be dangerous if they leaked. The industry wanted a safer option. Once again, Midgley looked for a solution and believed he had found one. At the time, it seemed like progress, but the long-term effects were not yet understood. The perfect solution, Midgley helped develop chemicals called chlorofluorocarbons, or CFCs. At first, they looked like a perfect solution. They did not catch fire easily, they were stable, and they seemed safe for normal use. Manufacturers quickly adopted them. Soon, CFCs were used in refrigerators, air conditioners, and aerosol sprays around the world. People believed another big problem had been solved. For many years, no one suspected any danger. But CFCs are extremely stable, so they stay in the atmosphere for a long time. Over time, they rise into the upper atmosphere, where sunlight breaks them apart and releases chlorine atoms. These chlorine atoms then damage ozone molecules, which protect the Earth from harmful radiation. The unseen damage, the ozone layer, works like a protective shield around Earth. It absorbs most of the sun's harmful ultraviolet UV rays. Without enough ozone, more of these dangerous rays reach the ground, increasing risks like skin cancer, eye problems such as cataracts, and damage to plants and animals. For many years, people did not know that CFCs were harming this layer. Later, scientists made a shocking discovery. They found a large seasonal thinning over Antarctica, called the ozone hole. The world was surprised that a once trusted chemical was damaging the atmosphere. The world takes action, unlike many environmental problems. Countries around the world worked together to act quickly. In 1987, they signed the Montreal Protocol, an international agreement to reduce and slowly stop using chemicals like CFCs that damage the ozone layer. It is now seen as one of the most successful environmental treaties ever made. Scientists say the ozone layer is slowly healing, but full recovery will take many decades because CFCs stay in the atmosphere for a long time. Without this action, the damage could have been far worse. A tragic irony, Thomas Midgley Jr.'s death was both unusual and deeply ironic. In the 1940s, he became seriously disabled after getting polio. To help himself move in and out of bed, he designed a system of ropes and pulleys, using his engineering skills to solve a daily problem. But in 1944, he became trapped in the device and died by strangulation. It was a tragic accident. The same man who spent his life creating clever solutions was, in the end, harmed by one of his own inventions. Was he evil? It is easy to hear this story and think of a villain, but history is more complex than that. There is no evidence that Thomas Midgley Jr. intended to harm the world. He was trying to solve real engineering problems of his time. However, companies, regulators, and society kept using and promoting these inventions even after warning signs appeared. His story is not just about one person doing wrong, but about how new technology can seem successful while hiding long-term risks that appear much later. The real lesson: Thomas Midgley Jr. changed the world twice, first with leaded gasoline and later with CFCs. At the time, both were seen as major breakthroughs that solved big problems. But later they became linked to serious environmental and public health damage. His story shows that intelligence alone is not enough. New technologies should be tested not just for today's benefits, but also for their long-term effects. Because sometimes the most harmful inventions are not made with bad intentions, but with good hopes and unknown future consequences. The lessons of Thomas Midgley, and that brings us to the end of this incredible story. Who would have thought that inventions created to solve problems could later cause such serious consequences? Could anyone at the time have predicted what would happen decades later? The story of Thomas Midgley Jr. reminds us that even the most successful inventions can have unexpected effects that are not understood until many years later. It is one of the most fascinating and surprising stories in modern history. What do you think about his story? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video and want more amazing true stories from history, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the Marrow of Time, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next journey into the past. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.